All in Sports Network. We love sports.
It is Tuesday, January 21st, and the college football season is officially over. The Ohio State Buckeyes are your national champions, and this is your daily fix for all things Texas Longhorns right here on All In Horns, brought to you by Rogue Sports Network. I'm Tanner Carlson. That is Jake Jimerson. We're going to do a little just immediate reaction to the national championship, just put a bow on the college football season. That obviously does not include our college football talk for the offseason. That's got to be the majority of the talk. But Ohio State, who beat Texas, will be your national champions this year. They beat Notre Dame 34-23. Ryan Day officially off the hot seat. Jake, what do you think?
I said the funniest thing at the start of the playoffs would be them winning a national championship and him still getting fired for losing to Michigan.
for losing to Michigan.
I don't think that's actually going to happen. I'd imagine his job is safe, but it just goes to show you that it's a good thing that fans overreacting don't make the decisions. Because according to Ohio State fans, their season was over just a few weeks ago, and now they are celebrating a national championship win.
And it's funny because there were legit fans. I don't know how many rational ones. There's always the irrational, louder fans than there are the quieter, rational ones. But of saying that they would rather lose in the first round to Tennessee and after losing to Michigan than to win a national championship following that loss. And here they are celebrating national. I'm wondering, just curious where those fans are today and what they're thinking.
I can guarantee you one thing. They didn't not watch this, and they're definitely not celebrating this because people say stuff in the heat of the moment, and that's why we're fans. And, people who are more mature and smarter make the decisions at the end of the day. Ryan Day. Sorry.
That's
it's
horrible.
Late. No, but Ohio State, it just goes to show you that you got to play your best football come playoff time. And that's really what's going to matter in this era. Ohio State was the 8th seed. They were the lower seeded team in every single matchup. Granted, they were favored in
not in the first. They were the 8-9, so they were the higher seed.
Yeah, you're right. They had the home game. They were the lower seed in every other matchup.
Yeah.
But they were also favored in every single matchup they played. Which goes to show you, this format was kind of scuffed.
Right.
It shows you, this format was kind of scuffed, as we had discussed. And then B, everyone knew how talented this Ohio State team was. It was just a matter of putting everything together at the right time. And they became a buzzsaw in this playoffs. Really only had, would you consider this game competitive? I still don't think I would, even though Notre Dame made me sweat my bet like big time.
Notre Dame competed, but I don't know if it was competitive. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Notre Dame showed hard at the end, but they were completely outgained in this game.
The first drive of the game, Notre Dame dominated.
They'll always have that first drive.
They will always have that first drive. No one can take that first drive away from them.
Or they used Riley Leonard like Tim Tebow.
Yeah, it was a 9 rushes and a 18-play, 17-play drive.
18 play. Half their plays were Riley Leonard runs.
Riley Leonard quarterback power. And then when Ohio State said, "Is that really what your game plan's going to be?" That's the plan for success. Okay. They just sent 10 guys to the middle of the offensive line and just blew it up. And that was that for Notre Dame. They had nothing else after that.
Yeah, they had no success running the ball outside of Riley Leonard, which was a problem for them all playoffs, by the way.
Julian Love against Indiana was a good. He technically had that 98-yard run.
The first round is so long ago, I'm not thinking about that anymore. Also, that was Indiana, not Georgia or Penn State or Ohio State, who are all much more superior defenses. But granted, their running backs only. This is weird to me. Is Leonard having 17 carries, Price having 3, Love having 4? That is an imbalance of carries, which isn't even the worst coaching decision of this game, by the way. And thank goodness they missed the kick, by the way, once again for my bet. But They kicking that field. I have to bring it up immediately. Kicking the field goal on fourth and goal when down 16 late in the game.
It does you nothing. Yeah.
Get 2 more possessions. I think that might be the worst decision of the season I've seen, at least in a big time football game. And especially in the national championship as the big time underdog. You have nothing to lose. And even if you make that kick, I'm glad you missed it. Besides my bet, just because if you're a coward, you deserve to miss it. And then B, what does that accomplish? You still need 2 more possessions. Other than going, I don't need 2 touchdowns and 2 2-point conversions. Now, you can't plan on getting 2 more possessions at that point.
It's funny that you mentioned that because in the Indiana game, Kirk Cignetti decided to do something rather similar and not go for a touchdown on 4th down or a conversion on 4th down and decided to punt, I believe it was, and not even kick the field goal, but punted it in the 4th quarter whenever they were down by like 3 possessions. I forget the exact scenario, but
I think they were down like 3 possessions and they were about midfield and it was like 4th and 5 or something
and decided to punt the ball or whatever it was. And so, but it just, you have to go for it in that situation because again, you're down by 2 scores. It's the 4th quarter. It's a national championship. There is no game after this. It doesn't matter really at the end of this if you convert that or not. And if they kick the field goal and they make it, you're kind of in the exact same position that you are currently down by 2 possessions. That doesn't change.
No, you still at that point you're counting possessions, or that's what you should be doing.
Yes.
You can rely on having 1 more possession more than likely. Relying on 2 with the success Ohio State was having on offense was idiotic. It just made no sense.
And guess what? They lost by 8. Maybe they score a touchdown on that 4th and goal, and they get a 2-point conversion, and then it's a tied ball game, and we're in overtime right now.
Yeah, and at best, if they get the field goal, I'm just sad right now. That's the only difference.
Anyone who bet Ohio State to cover the spread, the 9.5-point spread, is upset. That's the only thing you would have done there. 8.
I pushed it up to 10 on my bet because I was confident in Ohio State. But after they missed that field goal, they had the 6-play 80-yard touchdown drive, and then they got the ball at the very end when the game was over with like 20 seconds left. So they didn't even the math worked out how everyone thought it would. Everyone other than Marcus Freeman, who put together a great season and got a lot of credit, and deservedly so. But it just goes to show you really good coaches can make really stupid decisions.
It's so bizarre to me that Notre Dame gave their running backs 7 carries the entire game.
That's less than Leonard had on the first possession.
Yeah. And it's not like the game they had a 7-0 lead after the first drive. They got the ball back 7-7 into the 2nd quarter. By the way, these 2 teams going on crazy, insane long drives to start the game off. It's an 18-play drive and an 11-play drive for Ohio State, both ending in touchdowns. That was a pretty sweet way to start. I mean, 1 possession each in the first quarter took away the entire first quarter.
Yeah. And how about this for Ohio State? Just looking at their drive charts, 11 plays, 75 yards, touchdown. That was their first possession. 10 plays, 76 yards, touchdown. 12 plays, 80 yards, touchdown. 5 plays, 75 yards, touchdown. That was their first 4 possessions of the game. They didn't score another touchdown after that because this was a very low possession game, which that was Notre Dame's best opportunity to win this game, was limit possessions. They actually did a pretty good job of that by making Ohio State earn most of their drives, and then by at least chewing some clock on a good amount of drives, but they didn't really turn it on until the 4th quarter. And at that point, I think Ohio State did let off the gas a little bit.
Yeah, I think they probably did too, unfortunately, which you don't ever want to see that in a national championship. It didn't cost them, but it looked like it was about to cost them. Jake, in the first half, excluding the 18-play first quarter for Notre Dame, because that's all they got in the first quarter. In the 2nd quarter, it was Ohio State 11 plays, touchdown. Notre Dame 3 plays, -5 yards. Ohio State 10-play touchdown. Notre Dame 3 plays, 1 yard punt. Ohio State 12 plays, 80-yard touchdown. End of half, 1 play, 7 yards for Notre Dame. I mean, it just that that first half, that second quarter, just destroyed Notre Dame on all their
21 to
chances of
0.
winning.
21 to 0 second quarter.
Yeah.
That's your ball game.
And you got 3 possessions out of that.
Yeah.
That's that'll lose you a game right there.
Yeah. And that second quarter was the showcase of what this Ohio State team looks like when they're playing at their best, which I begrudgingly say that because we all wish Texas was playing in this game. And, you know, I saw a lot of Texas Twitter was active watching the game as you'd expect and going, Texas should, after the first drive, oh my God. It was, if Arch play, we win, which by the way, I'm pretty sure it's been essentially confirmed he was hurt after those
that
runs.
After that, was it a 4th down run or 3rd down run?
I think it was a 4th and short run.
Yeah.
But then Notre Dame just got shut down after that. Showed some fight at the end, but this Ohio State team, you said at the start of the year I had them as the second best team in the country. You had them as the best. I thought they were the most talented team in the country. I just didn't trust Ryan Day and Will Howard fully.
Well, yeah. Why would you?
But Will Howard delivered in all the big time moments during this playoff run.
The dude started 11 for 11 with over 100 yards and a touchdown in the first half of this game,
and iced the game on a deep shot.
Yeah, and you know that's what's crazy about Jeremiah Smith is that he had 5 catches, 88 yards, but it felt like he had, and then he had the touchdown as well. But it didn't feel like he was as active in this game, aside from making maybe 2 of the biggest plays of the entire game.
Yeah. I mean, that's not a lot of catches, but I mean, that's a good amount of yardage from him. And obviously he made the catch that seals the deal at the end, the play that will be remembered from this game. That did ice the game, but
that'll be the first play on the highlight reel.
The difference in this game was Ohio State was able to run the ball while Notre Dame wasn't, which also looking at this, Will Howard led Ohio State in carries with 16. Henderson had 12, Judkins had 11. But both quarterbacks running the ball a lot. And that's what we're going to talk about later in this week with how will Sarkisian use Arch? Mm-hmm. Will he run it with him more? I think if they get into a national championship type game playoff, run, that's when you could see a game where all of a sudden Arch gets a bunch of carries like these two teams did. Will Howard ran the ball pretty sparingly during the regular season. He was used a lot tonight in the run game and scrambled a lot on his own. And I think it's those coaches being almost doing the NFL messaging to your quarterback during the regular season of preserve yourself. Don't take shots. We need you later in the season. This is no longer a 13-game season. This is a 16-plus game season. Both these teams played 16 games.
No, yeah. I mean, it is a NFL regular season now for college football, where it used to be a 13, maybe a 14-game season for most schools. Now you're looking at 16, even 17 if you play in a conference championship game, which neither one of these two teams did. And so, Jake, my question to you is, when do you think we will have a 17-0 team win a national champion? Or, well, I guess it'd be 16-0 because they would probably have a bye week in the first round of the playoffs. So it'd be 16-0.
Man, it's tough to say because if this was before the NIL era, I think I would say within the next year or two. And it's still possible, but I think in this kind of super conference NIL era, it's very unlikely because the majority of your national champions are going to come from the SEC and the Big 12 or Big 10. And you not only have a tough regular season, whether you schedule tough out of conference or not, but the run in the playoffs is a bunch of really tough teams. And that's what also makes this extended season so much harder. It's more games, but you're also playing more top competition within those games. There's much more physical, big hitting games than there were in the 13 game era.
No one would have been able to take this national championship away from Notre Dame, but no one can surely take it away from Ohio State. You want to say, oh, well, you lost 2 games in the regular season. Yeah, that's fine by me, but you had to beat an SEC top 3 SEC team in Tennessee in the first round, beat them to a pulp. You had to go and play undefeated Oregon, who you had already lost to in the regular season, had to beat them in the Rose Bowl, beat them to a pulp. Then you had to go to Texas, play Texas, a team who got second place in the SEC, and then finish off with a very physical Notre Dame team. I mean, like you said, the physicality of those teams alone to make it through that gauntlet, just healthy and able to play in a national championship at your best level, at your best, your team's best ability is impressive. And I think that's why this 12-team playoff, to me, you do get a true national championship. You do get the best teams at this point, because no one can really argue even Notre Dame's road to get there. Yeah, they had to beat Georgia. Yeah, they had to beat a very good Penn State team, a very physical Penn State team. The physicality and the beating, the physicality it takes on these teams, the toll it takes, goes to show towards that national championship that, yeah, you've earned it at that point in time. I don't care what your regular season record is going to tell me.
Yeah. Ohio State's path is not only incredibly impressive, they covered every single game. The only game that you can argue was kind of a backdoor cover is the Texas game. That was their closest game of the playoffs without everyone would agree, without a doubt, because the box score was close, yardage was close, the actual game was close. They just got that defensive touchdown that literally backdoored the spread, basically. But other than that, they dominated in the three other games. The Notre Dame game, they let off the gas a little. Notre Dame did cut it to one possession technically, but they were never threatening to win the game.
It was 31-7. And at that point it was, Tanner, do you want to record in the third quarter? And then Notre Dame scored a touchdown, got the 2-point conversion. Let's just wait. Got another one. So we're like, well, now we have to see how this thing finishes. But yeah, there was never really a moment of, wow, Notre Dame can win this game, especially when they decided to kick the field goal. I was like, yeah, no, they're not going to win this game.
Yeah, right after they kicked, right when they were lining up to kick the field goal, I was like, well, let's record.
Yeah, let's get on right now. Yeah.
This is idiotic. Like, you're wasting my time as a viewer by not going for it here.
Season in review, Jake, though, I thought this was one hell of a college football season, man. I absolutely love this year. I thought this was one of the more exciting, more unique season-long experiences, not only because we had the podcast and we were preparing for it and whatnot, but just the college football playoff, the extended playoff added so much more in terms of a week-by-week basis of what is this thing going to look like now? Or what does the Kentucky beating Ole Miss game do to Ole Miss's season? Now, what does Ole Miss beating Georgia do to Georgia's season? And just this constant rotation. And that wasn't just for those teams, but throughout the entire year, we saw that. And it was just a very enlightening first year, a kind of a trial run. I'm so excited to see what next year brings in terms of how are teams going to approach losses. Is it going to let it completely destroy your team? Or is it just kind of like, okay, cool, we got the rest of the season, we're fine?
Yeah. And what's so kind of season in review, going to just try to go big picture here. First off, I did read an article that apparently they might be able to tinker with the format for next year. I don't think they can expand it or anything like that. I did see that it is possible they could mess with the format, which to me would just be keep automatic bids, seed your field. You get your field, you seed your field based off however good you would rank those teams, which I think pretty much everyone agrees that is the way to do it at this point.
Because I think it would be more advantageous to see an Indiana play a Boise State in round one and get one of those teams to advance instead of just having one automatically there waiting for somebody to play those teams back-to-back weeks.
Yeah, the first round of games would have been infinitely more entertaining than they were, because you just had teams, Texas Clemson was one of the more entertaining games, and that probably was the most entertaining game of the first round, and yet Texas had that game in hand.
Yeah. Do you think that they will seed differently if that is the case? If they're going to just go 1 through 12, do you think that they would rank teams the same way that they ranked them this year, and based on like criteria and whatnot?
Like
say, so Texas loses the SEC championship. Do you think that they would still be considered a 3 seed, or do you think that they would drop them lower in the rankings, knowing that they're going to make it 1 through 12. That's just who you have, because they were ranked number 3 going into the playoffs.
I think their ranks were their ranks. Like Texas would have been the 3 or the 4. They would have had a bye. Almost certainly.
Okay.
If this, wasn't, I don't think they would have stayed, because at worst, they would have been the 5. They were the 5. I think they would have been probably the 4, if not the 3. If
depending on where they grade it, because like the way I kind of see it is what they may have done if they're going to go 1 through 12 is that they look at that Big Ten championship game. They say, oh, Penn State lost that Big Ten championship game. They now have 2 losses. Those 2 losses match up to Ohio State's 2 losses. Ohio State has the head-to-head. We're going to move Ohio State up. But since they said beginning of the season, they weren't going to base their rankings if you lose a conference championship game. They're going to respect the conference championship game appearance. That I'm not so sure that they don't rank Ohio State higher than Penn State in that scenario if they're just going to go 1 through 12 and not really go through, if they're going to try to get the best 12 ranked teams where they deserve to be. Does that make sense? Is that, am I explaining that correctly?
Yeah, I think that makes sense, but I do think their week 16 rankings would have ended up being the playoff rankings, essentially.
Yeah.
With Oregon 1, Georgia 2, Texas 3, Penn State 4. Because you don't punish Penn State for losing the Big Ten title game by 1 possession. So you would still almost view them as a 1-loss team, at least based off how the committee has said that they're going to grade things. And then Texas would have been the 3, Notre Dame would have been the 5, Ohio State the 6. So in that scenario, we get Notre Dame against Arizona State first round. Sign me up for that.
Yeah.
That would have been an entertaining game. Then you would have got Ohio State against Alabama. That's the one.
Well, Clemson would still have to get in because they won the ACC.
Correct. So Bama would still be out. So actually, Arizona State would be the 11. So it'd have been Arizona State, Ohio State. Ohio State probably handles that, but Notre Dame, Clemson.
Notre Dame probably wins that one.
Kate Klubnik, man. When you have the better quarterback.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they would win that game, but I think they would make it a game.
I'll put some respect on Notre Dame's name.
I won't. And then Tennessee, Indiana at Tennessee. That I think that would have been a heck of a lot more entertaining than Ohio State, Tennessee was.
Do you know who Indiana's 2 losses were this season?
Ohio State, and Notre Dame. Or wait, Ohio State and Notre Dame.
Ohio State and Notre Dame were the only 2 losses they had.
Both on the road as well.
Both on the road. So I mean,
granted, who was their best win?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell. Indiana State. I don't know.
Either Michigan or it's probably Nebraska because they won that game 56-7.
I don't know. Michigan ended up with a pretty good season. They beat Alabama and Ohio State their final 2 games of the year.
Yeah. Yeah. So regardless, we're arguing semantics there.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think the overall season though, I stand by that the expanded playoff is the way to go. I think
it was one of the more entertaining. It was one of the more entertaining college football seasons in recent.
And the reason why is exactly the reasoning I laid out. And I think my first ever Jake Don't Jump segment, which was more games matter, which was true. There was so many more games that I was watching and paying attention to because of the playoffs and because of like, this team's not dead yet. This, Ole Miss, they've blown 2 games, but this Florida game, if they win this, they're probably going to make the playoff. And then they blow that Florida game. And it's just that like, those were must watch games.
Yeah.
And for me, it just, and I said this also over and over, but I don't understand this like superiority complex from college football fans that go, well, if you're not undefeated, you don't deserve to play for a national title. Why? It's not like that at any other level of football, any other level of college football,
of sport, period.
Yeah.
Of any sport ever.
Yeah. Unless, I don't know, maybe some European soccer. I don't know. They do things weird. But yeah,
in America.
Yeah. The 12 team playoff was ultimately a success that needs some tweaking. I think also they got to figure out, and this is where we can go in later during the offseason about the conference championship talk. We've already discussed it some, but I think the season has to end earlier. I think it went on a little too long, and I think having the national championship game on a Monday is just kind of stupid.
First of all, I hate Championship Monday. They've done it ever since the 14 playoff. I've always hated Championship Monday. I've always thought it was the worst because it just doesn't feel like a national. You're kind of getting and competing with the NFL playoffs is the worst possible thing you could do. And the deeper you get into the NFL playoffs, the least your game is going to feel like it matters. Period. Like divisional round NFL playoffs are superior to the college football national championship in terms of hype, and you're all prepared to watch NFL playoffs, and then you're like, okay, cool, my weekend's done. Oh wait, I have a national championship I need to watch on Monday. College football needs to figure out, do we push the regular season up a little bit? Do we take a few weeks out of the regular or of the the in-between period of getting ready for the playoffs? How they manage to work that in their schedule, I don't know, but I'm sure they can figure it out.
Yeah, it's there's just
I'd like the national championship to fall on New Year's Day is what I'd like it to fall on.
Yeah, I'd like it to be at the I'm one of the Rose Bowl people. I would love for it to be at the Rose Bowl every single year.
Every year.
But at the very least, it needs to end probably 2 weeks sooner, and maybe that's doing less games in between, but there's got to be a way to condense it down, which, by the way, I was looking at ESPN, and they had their end of season early 2025 rankings. The early 2025 rankings would have the number 1 Ohio State Buckeyes hosting the number 2 Texas Longhorns to open the season.
Nice. Nice.
That would have to be the first ever 1-2 matchup week 1. If that happens,
I don't know if it's the first ever, but it's possible. I mean,
it's very possible.
I had to look it up, but yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I mean, how many even top 5 matchups have we got in week 1? It just while you look it up, I'll go on. But they even just top 5 matchups week 1, it couldn't have happened. I'm already hyping this game up, and we are months away. The national championship just ended, but it's going to be one of, if not the most hyped week 1 matchups we've ever seen in our lifetimes. Not just Texas, just any game. You have a rematch of what many people have called the national title was the semifinal. It's going to be at Ohio State. It's Arch Manning's first start. This is going to be we're completely off the national championship game now and looking ahead to next season already, which shows how excited we are for Longhorn football to continue. But it's going to be maybe the most hyped up regular season game in the history of Texas football, and one of the most, if not the most hyped regular season games of our lifetime, especially non-conference.
Yeah, you got September 9th in 2006, Texas and Ohio State, but that was week 2, I believe.
I'm pretty sure that was week 2.
Yeah, I'm almost certain it was.
What year was that?
2006.
I can look up real quick if that was week 1 or 2.
But I know early September.
Yeah, because Texas played North Texas week 1 that year.
Yeah, I'm not seeing a week 1. I've got a full list, and I think the earliest I see is that September 9th game.
Almost every single time these big early season non-conference matchups are week 2.
Yeah. Yeah, week 2 or week 3, and it's never 1 or 2. It's always 2 and 4, or something along. Yeah, something along.
We'll do some more research, when we get closer to that game. But
I just saw a whole list, and that was the earliest 1-2 matchup that I saw,
which was ironically Texas Ohio State. But I mean, just top 5 matchups alone in week 1. I imagine the list is very, very short. If there is one at all, we'll do research for this when we get closer to the game, because I do imagine both teams will be top 5 preseason, because the arch hype train is going to dictate that.
Right. Correct. And Texas, I mean, let's be real. Texas has made the Final Four 2 of the back-to-back years. They are going to be one of the top 5 teams in the country, regardless of the roster turnover next year. They just are.
Yeah, with roster turnover, should they be? Probably not. They're
But that's
losing,
where they're. But that's
8
where
or
they're going to rank
9
them.
starters on offense, losing like 5 or 6 starters on defense. They're losing a lot, but it's not going to matter when Arch Manning is taking over. That is just the hype
Correct.
train. But yeah, I mean, that's going to be one of the biggest week 1 matchups. And unfortunately, Ohio State winning a national title means that game is probably out of my price range now, unless we can get a sponsor to send us to the game.
Hey.
If anyone wants to sponsor All In Horns to go to Ohio for the Ohio State Texas opening game, we take donations.
Honestly, I will wear a full jumpsuit of your company's logo. I will just wear like basically a NASCAR outfit of your company's
I'll
logo.
wear a Speedo and go in just the Speedo if needed.
If that's what it's going to take, we'll sacrifice that to go to Columbus, Ohio, and watch this game live and do the show from the stadium like College Game Day. But yeah, Jake, if you had to pick a single game, best game of the college football playoffs, what was it?
Best game of it's Texas Arizona State.
Yeah. And then I think the second best game, Texas Ohio State, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't really. Notre Dame Penn State was a pretty good one.
That would probably be the best argument.
Right.
Because it's not, I mean, just going down, it's not Notre Dame, Indiana, not Texas. It's none of the first
None of the first round. Yeah.
It's not Penn State, Boise State's obviously not Ohio State, Oregon. It's not Notre Dame, Georgia. Yeah, it'd be Notre Dame, Penn State would be your best option for second. If you look at scoreboards, you would say Penn State, Notre Dame, just because it was a 3-point game. I think, yeah, I mean, Texas, Arizona State, undoubtedly the best playoff game.
Best game by far. Yeah.
Not close. Then you kind of have 2A, 2B with Notre Dame, Penn State, and
then
the
national championship, what falls in maybe the 5th best game of the college football playoffs, maybe. I mean, it just was kind of a meh.
Yeah, I would probably have it behind Notre Dame, Georgia.
Yeah, it was kind of just meh, just kind of a blah. Okay, yeah. I'll watch it because it's the national championship type game.
Yeah,
that's my final synopsis, is that I watched it because it was the national championship.
The hype for it going in was just not high today leading into it, because I think everyone was expecting an Ohio State blowout.
Mm-hmm.
Then it was 31. Happened. Yeah. Then it was 31-7 Ohio State. And then Notre Dame just made better sweat. That was kind of the game.
Yep. Betters were nervous. They were sweating it out. But all right, Jake, that's going to do it for today's episode. Any final words before we go off?
When does the 2025 college football season start? I'm ready.
Yep. I'm right there with you, man. I'm ready to start looking at getting into the spring game, marking that on my calendar. I'm looking to start doing a lot of prepping for the 2025 season.
Texas basketball being bad hurts that. Am looking forward to baseball for the baseball fans.
Women's basketball. Legit.
Women's basketball we have going on as well. We'll be very excited for that. The closer and closer we get to tournament time, maybe men's turn it around. Doubt it, but we'll see. And then baseball with Schlossnagle in his first year. Yeah. Maybe we can get Mike Harge on again to discuss.
Yeah,
football,
we'll need
to discuss, baseball season. He's going to be more knowledgeable than either of us combined on baseball.
I'm curious if we can't carve out a weekly spot for him when it comes to baseball season.
Yeah, or maybe like in every other week or something.
Every other week, yeah.
I think that was definitely one of our more fun interviews too.
And he doesn't need to stay on for the full 30 minutes. He can stay on for 10 minutes, give us a quick baseball recap of how he thought the games were going, and then, jump off. So, but all right, Jake, that's going to do it for today's episode. Again, these episodes are coming out Tuesday through Saturday at noon. This is your daily fix for all things Texas Longhorns right here on All In Horns. Like, share, subscribe. I'm Tanner Carlson. That is Jake Jimerson. You are listening to this on YouTube and where all podcasts can be heard. Brought to you by Rogue Sports Network. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, for the college football season wrapping up, welcome.
All in Sports Network. We love sports.